Hey there, how are you? Hope you're all well. Okay, so in this video today, I wanted to talk about success, but at a deeper level. Okay, so assuming that you're you're already in this profession of loan broking, or you want to get into this profession of loan broking, I'm not going to talk about tricks, hacks, and all those kind of things that the gurus tend to talk about. I want to talk about the reality, and a lot of that reality of success really happens up here. And the bottom line is that unless you are already complete, you already know everything you need to know, then you're going to need to go on a journey of growth, personal growth, to achieve success in this profession. And believe you me, that's not that this profession is unique and special because of that. That's in anything you do. If you want to achieve any level of success from the point that you're at right now, taking into account you don't know what you don't know, then you are going to need to go through some growth, personal growth. And that's really what I want to touch on right now, because the brutal reality of success is that it isn't a straight line, right? We know that, and yet when we're trying to achieve some level of success, we tend to forget that. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you have these ideas when you start anything, right? And let's just talk about my entry point into loan broking and everything else. And obviously today we help real estate investors access funding, but it's all the same. When I started out, I had these ideas of how quickly I would be achieving success. I mapped myself out for a 12-week time frame because that's really how long it's always taken me to do anything from a sales-related perspective to get deals closed and money coming in. And I thought, what could be so different about this? I got into it. I really didn't know what I didn't know, and there was failure after failure after failure after failure, right? And with that, because of my personal situation, because I kind of dragged my wife into the, I laugh at me now, but at the time this wasn't, this was a scenario where I was really not happy in what I was doing and I wanted to make a change, and that's why I moved in this direction. And my wife wasn't too keen on that, but she supported it. And I had 2 young kids at the time. And so when I sort of dived into this thing and really went for it, I kind of in my mind had an idea of what was going to happen, and the reality of that was nowhere near what I thought what was going to happen. So bear with me on this. So what I'm getting to is that stress, emotion, frustration naturally kicks in, right? You have a deal that you think's about to fund and then it doesn't fund. I mean, what's the natural reaction from that? A huge amount of stress. I mean, this happened to me, right? Probably has happened to you, and if it hasn't yet, believe me, it will, right? So I had a lot of frustration, a lot of self-doubt, confidence levels were plummeting quickly, stress levels were building up, the pressure was building up, all of this stuff was happening, and it's fair to say that is a lot of emotion that's going on there. Now, here's the thing that I kind of realized at a later point. It's all relative, because the reality about all of that stuff is that it's not real. Stress happens, pressure happens, because the things that we want to happen, the things that we are expecting to happen, don't happen. And so we get stressed. But none of that changes the reality of the situation, which is it's happened, right? So bear with me here, because this is what normally happens to people. And this is why a lot of people either don't get the success they want in this profession, or they just go ahead and quit, right? Either, same outcome. You're not making the kind of money you wanted to make. It definitely hasn't transformed your life in any way, shape or form close to what you wanted it to do, right? And it's all because of emotion, okay? So if we've got that emotion in us now, because the things that we want to happen are no longer happening and we're getting stressed, if we're not managing that properly, then it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And that's ultimately what leads to people quitting. But the bottom line is that this is what happens. When emotion is in the way, it clouds our rational judgment. And there's a big problem with perspective, or a lack of the correct perspective, and therefore accuracy of how we're diagnosing situations, because we're allowing the emotion of the situations to cloud our judgment. And so I want to give you some very, very simple examples of that. Now, I've got excuse me while I go to this side here, I've got an email that I wanted to bring up. If you just bear with me just a second, while I should have had this ready actually when I got into this, but I basically didn't. Right, here we go. Okay, so we've there's an individual in our community that I've been helping with this scenario, really, and it's a great case study that I want to use to kind of show you how accuracy does matter, how that clarity of thought does matter. Because the bottom line is that if you are not accurate in the way you diagnose your situation, the lack of results, the failures, and what that really does mean, then you're never going to go and get the success that you want. Okay, because you're always being driven by emotion. And I think we can all agree here, regardless of whether we're loan broking or not, just in life in general, right? If we allow emotion to drive us a lot of the time, we make bad decisions. I mean, I don't know how many I've certainly made a ton of bad decisions because I've been emotional when I made them. And it's only through making those mistakes that you later learn that that's really not the way to do it. Because ultimately, if you're the sort of person that keeps ending up in similar situations in their life, right, it's because you have a habitual way of making decisions that create those same outcomes every time and time again. And a lot of the time, it's just that we're not aware that we're being inaccurate and we're allowing emotion to drive those decisions. So here's what I wanted to kind of go into with this individual. I'm going to give this as a real case study. Now, they're a great person. I've got so much respect for them, and this is kind of why we had this dialogue here. But they had a lot of frustration kicking in, right? There were 7 weeks, or I should say are 7 weeks into the program, and they've got 11 apps in. Now, this person's working a full-time job as well, right? So they'll have to put some time into this. And of those 11 apps, 10 of them were just outright duds, and one of them had the ability to be funded, but the individual turned it down because they perceived that the quote was too high. The quote was too high. Now, that person's mindset at that time, because they were allowing the frustration, the stress, and the emotion ultimately to guide them, was that this stuff doesn't work. I expected more, and therefore I quit, right? Bearing in mind 7 weeks ago, this whole profession was going to be the thing that was going to change their life dramatically and finally give them the platform of freedom and all of those things that we generally look to do this for. 7 weeks later, I quit. Now, bear in mind what I said. If you're watching this right now and you have this scenario in your life where these same outcomes tend to happen time and time again, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So this is where perspective, or a change of perspective, and therefore accuracy matters. Because, and I'm just going to talk to you about this as if this was me going through that same experience, right? And this is real. So if I was then doing that, I actually asked a number of questions. Now, the first thing that I would look at in a situation where the outcome that I wanted and expected didn't happen is, okay, look at this from a third party point of view, right? So you remove yourself from the situation and you can just analyze this as data, as this thing has happened. It's nothing to do with me. I have no emotional attachment to this now. Why or what did I learn from that situation? Okay, it happened. Why did that happen in that way? Right? So you can start to dig into that from that perspective. Now, you may not initially know the answer to the why or what happened there. Then I would initially focus on that one client then that got the high rates but decline. Well, why did the client get the offer of high rates? Now, you don't know this, but I can explain. We take the lender network that we have seriously. We've learned this stuff the hard way, right? Never settle with the lenders. I won't go into too much detail with that, but you need to have very good lenders. And we have a strategy with our lenders that enable us to be certainly within the top 10% of what's on offer in the market right now. Okay, so that's why they have to be fluid, because good lenders can get bad and vice versa and all things in between. Anyway, we know we've got competitive rates. So the question then is, well, what was the client's situation? Why did they get an offer that was at a rate that was higher than they expected? Now, more often than not, if you've got, now bear in mind we focus on real estate investors right now because of COVID, but this applies to business owners as well. If they have a rate that's higher than they expected, and you know you have confidence in your lender network, then they're getting what is off. The offer that they're getting is what they can get. And it doesn't mean that if they go anywhere else, they're going to get anything much better. Now, I'm not saying that person couldn't have got something better, but from our perspective, very, very doubtful. And it means that there's a scenario going on. There's a situation with that client that individual probably hasn't scoped out properly that really determines why the quote or the offer is what it is, right? So what is their situation? The next question would then be, could I have closed them anyway? How could I have approached the situation differently if it happened again? More often than not, when a rate is too high, it requires education of the individual. If you don't get into the point of being direct, truthful, and educating as to why it is what it is, then you're just transacting. You're not doing anything more than transacting, and that's easy. Anyone can transact. That's what Walmart does. That's what retail shops do, right? If you're doing this right, you need to be consulting. You need to be building relationships. So they may not like what you have to say, but believe you me, time always tells the truth. And at some point they'll understand and they'll be back. Or you close them there and then anyway. Now, the point of that whole bit that I've just talked about there is a lack of accuracy and the wrong perspective creates a situation where, one, that client's gone and that individual's willing to quit because what they wanted to happen didn't happen. Pure emotion, bad mindset. Does that make sense? Let's take that further. You can then look into that situation and go, okay, I've been here 7 weeks. I've only got 11 apps in. Is that a good outcome or is that a bad outcome? Could I have got more? If you're always asking yourself why, then you're always going to be accurate with the way the answers come to you, as long as you're not emotional with that, right? So what could I have done to get more applications? How can I increase the volume of those applications? How or what do I need to do to increase the number of fundable deals? So you've also got to bear this stuff in mind. If I'm that person coming into this in the first 7 weeks, I still don't know what I don't know. Right? So I can actually look at that and go, well, there's probably a scenario where I could qualify it way better than I have been doing. And actually, I can guarantee this is always the case. Where the outcomes of activity are not what we expect, it's almost always because we are not productive enough. We are not disciplined in the way that we turn up and execute our time or invest our time. So an example of that would be, and let's say you do have a full-time job, you've got 4 hours a day to do this stuff, right? If you're turning up for that 4 hours, let's imagine it's a 4-hour segment, and the first thing you're thinking is, right, what do I need to do first? What should I do? You're not being productive, you're wasting time, and that time is directly affecting your activity and your outcomes. You should be planning your time and everything that you're going to do the day before you do it. This is not rocket science, right? That's just common sense. So if you're productive with your time and you maximize every single minute of that time investment, then guarantee you that there'd be way more activity, there'd be way more going on, there'd be way more applications coming in. Because the bottom line is that when you're starting this, whoever speaks to, engages with the most people, good and bad, wins. That's it. Not rocket science at all. So if you're not out there, if you're not engaging, you're overcomplicating everything and you will not make money, or certainly not as much as most people can make at this, right? So this is about perspective and accuracy, digging deeper and asking the right questions of ourselves. So was I productive enough? Probably not. Therefore, what could I change? How can I change what I'm doing with my life in terms of how I'm structuring my day? And it may not be just in terms of structuring what they're doing in regards to loan broking. It may be restructuring everything that they do in their day so they can maximize the opportunity that they have here right now. Okay? Was I following up enough? And I can guarantee you 99% of people don't. Now, we've got some recent wins that some of the guys have been saying sharing in the community. We've got one guy, I will post about this. Actually, it's the same guy that I've got a video on that closed, Matt Vasquez, who closed a 1.9 million line of credit. Hey there, guys. Sorry about that. My camera just suddenly cut out. Anyway, I'll get straight back to the point. I was talking about one of our guys, Matt Vasquez, who's not been with us too long. He's the one that recently closed the $1.9 million line of credit. You may have seen the video on that one. Well, he's just closed a $3 million line of credit, and this is in the space of 4 weeks between one and the other. And the point I was just trying to make about is, the question was, are you following up enough, right? And I was saying that most people just don't do this. And the bottom line is that success at this is really, it's not rocket science. It really is it's about being relentless with the follow-up, right? So this is more specific to the real estate investor market, very, very different to business funding. And these are some of the opportunities that this creates, because with real estate investors, especially the good ones, they have multiple deals over the period of 12 months. It's not inconceivable that you get someone that does 6 or 12, even more a year, and all they really want is a broker that they can trust to get their deals done, right? That's basically it. And so the bottom line is that what we teach is that it's not about the deals. It's not about doing work to get deals. It's about doing work to get relationships and develop those relationships. And the only way that really happens, the only way that you can get that to happen and consult versus transact, is by relentless follow-up. It's by being a pain in the butt, right? And I kind of say this is how I approach this sort of stuff. Unless that person is telling me to, F off, and sometimes they actually do say that, then I'm going to keep going and until I've got what I want out of that and what that I know that they need, because I know I have what they want. I know that I can provide them with a service that is valuable to them and helps them improve their business, right? Which is why I do it. I take the mindset and the point of view that I have a duty to do that, because I know these people are struggling to get their deals funded and I know that I can help them. And with that said, I'm relentless in that follow-up. And Matt Vasquez, it's exactly the same, and that's why he's getting these results where other people maybe aren't getting results. The money's always in the follow-up and being relentless about that. And do you know what what happened? He'd done about 8, and I'm actually going to copy his post and post it for you in our university group if you're in there, and if you're not, there's a link below this video where you can access that. And what he actually says as how this happened, I think it was like the 8th or 9th time that he tried to speak to this guy. And the last time they spoke, he said, yeah, I'll call you right back, and obviously didn't. And he sent a meme to the guy, and basically it was a funny one that said, call me. And the guy found it funny and he called him, and on that phone they closed on that deal, right? That's amazing. Now I can tell you one thing, the $1.9 million LLC and the $3 million LLC would not have happened unless the follow-up was there, unless he was relentless with that follow-up. So back to the point, being accurate with your diagnosis and shifting your perspective. If you are not doing that, you wouldn't be able to analyze accurately enough to ask the right questions to understand that maybe I'm not following up enough. And therefore, what is it I need to do to ensure that I am following up enough? How do I maximize my time availability and ensure that I'm productive with that? Because believe you me, if you've only got 4 hours a day and you need to do follow-up in that as well, you damn well need to be productive, right? You can see that everything matters. Everything kind of dovetails into the next thing. So your lack of action has a reaction. If you're full on with your action, that also has a reaction. But if you're not productive enough with that, and that's where we can get into that headspace again, it's emotional. I'm really busy, but nothing's happening. No, you're not working smart. You're not accurate with your diagnosis as to what is it that's going wrong, and you're letting emotion cloud your judgment. You're letting emotion be the foundation that supports the questions that you're asking yourself. And that's how we trick ourselves into thinking, well, I'm being rational with this decision. You're not. You're not. So unless you can take a third-party perspective of your scenario and analyze that accurately and therefore change that whole perspective, you're not going to get the right answers to the questions, and therefore you are going to come short and likely just fail and quit, right? It's all connected. And then the final thing that I asked that individual, and again, you should be asking yourself if the results aren't there, did I develop any relationships? And if I didn't, why didn't I? And therefore, what can I change? That little thing in itself, forget everything else I've just said, that thing there, that would be a game changer if your outcomes of what you're doing is not conducive to you developing relationships. Because if you're not, then you are simply transacting. And that's where you get to be like a hamster on a wheel. You're busy being busy, but you're not making a lot of money, right? Success at this stuff is not about the hacks. It's not about lead generation and all the stuff the gurus talk about. It's absolute BS. I mean, lead generation is like 10% of the success at this. It goes way deeper, and a lot of it's up here and how you are, how you perceive your perspective of your situation, the accuracy of how you measure your situation, and therefore the answers that you determine from that create the success that you later go on to have. Now, I hope I'm making sense here. This is not woo-woo stuff. It's just the way it is, right? So, to summarize everything I've just said there, your success is not a straight line. If things that are happening to you that you do not want to happen or that you do not expect to happen, and you're getting emotional because of that, right? Remember, you're controlling that. It's not real. It's just a chemical reaction in your brain. Doesn't mean shit. No one else cares apart from you, right? So take a step away from that emotion, get rid of it, and accurately diagnose the situation. Because if it's not going the way you want, there is a reason for that. So start asking why. Why is what I want and what I expect not happening? And dig into that, because that's where your answers lie. Because the bottom line is, guys and girls, this industry is worth multiple billions, and it's growing, and it's only going to go further forward, right? And if people in this industry are making money, and they are, trust me, they are, and you're not, there's a reason. And it's just a reason that you haven't discovered yet. The answers are out there. You just haven't asked the right questions to understand how you can capitalize on that opportunity and you can make it work for you. Hopefully I'm making sense right now, but I really just wanted to break that all down. So to summarize once again, your success is not a straight line. Remove your emotion, change your perspective, and be accurate in the way that you diagnose your problems. Ask the right questions, get the right answers, and then move on to success. And if you have any questions or anything like that, please do post in the comments below. There's a link here to schedule a call with us if you want to learn about our workflow-based training, where we teach everything that I'm talking about right now. Not only the steps that you need to follow to get that success, but we go way deeper, as you could probably tell with this video, right? There's a link to join our university group. This is a group where I share videos like this, the wins, other stuff that goes in there too, so you can learn. If you're kind of new to this industry and you want to just see what it's all about, that's a good place to hang out. And as I say, any questions, comment below, and please do subscribe to this channel. I think I've only got about 120 subscribers right now, which is okay. I'm not here for subscribers, but I do want to grow this channel. I do want this to be a positive force for good in the broking industry, and I want it to shine out as something that is truth telling and is not talking about, I guess, the stuff that sucks us all in initially, which is how much money I can make. You can make a lot of money, but if that's the forefront of why you're doing it, you will not get success. Those that chase the money invariably just fail. What you need to focus on is the work that is required to create the money, create the outcomes. So other than that, guys, have a great day. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Bye-bye.